Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's Friday, April 24th, 2026. New day, fresh start. Welcome to the Pitbull Traders Morning Game Plan. I'm your host, Manny. The purpose of this show is simple: live futures trading, real-time technical analysis, and actionable trade setups. All with the focus on trader education and the mindset designed to drive consistent profitability. Every morning we come in with one goal: to build out the structure before the open so we're operating in alignment with the dominant forces of the day. Not guessing, not chasing. All right, so guys, let's map it out. Coming into this morning, we're much in the same position we were yesterday morning, right? We're starting off on our 4-hour chart. On your screen, you have a 4-hour ES futures chart, 24-hour chart, including the overnight session and the RTH session. On the right, you have a 15-minute chart of the ES. Every morning, we'll start off with our higher time frame analysis, and we'll get a little bit more granular as we discuss the options and the trade setups for the day. All right, so the one thing that we have to point out, there's not really much more to look at on the 4-hour chart, right? We basically have gone nowhere in the last 24 hours. We can see here that we're just spending time here at highs and developing what we see as a bull flag, right? So we have our flagpole here, and we're just kind of building out this flag structure up here. That's just a loose representation of a flag. All right, so there's not really much to discern. We have resistance up here at the 7180 to 7190 range. For some reason, the market does not want to get above that area. There's certain resistance in terms of flows up there. That 7190 to 7180 to 7190 area represents some strong resistance. All right, so pretty much in the same setup that we were yesterday. Quickly walking through the progression that we outlined every morning on how we got here and what we can expect next based on the higher time frame. Okay, so we had our impulsive move off of the 63.53 low. We had a half back retracement of that move and price, and then the trend continued higher, and that was really the first break of the hourly trend. It was a very strong impulsive move that took us higher. We then gapped down on bad news, And coming on Sunday night, that Friday, we identified in the Pit Bull Traders chat that there was a shift, and we went from a sell rips regime to a buy the dips regime, and a bad news is good news type of environment. So we knew that that gap down on Sunday, once it broke above that early morning, that early evening high, that it was going to be game on to the upside. That resulted in one of the strongest moves we've seen in recently. Pretty much a 156 point straight line move to where we are now. And interestingly enough, price has yet to gain any traction above the high of that week. So let's just be mindful of that and understand that we have significant resistance at that 71.80 to 71.90 range. What we don't want to be doing is initiating long trades as soon as we get up there, right? So if we're going to break out and continue this bull trend higher, right? We're going to want to see price show some acceptance of those higher prices so that we don't get trapped on a look above and fail, where price looks above and then comes right back in. All right. We are anticipating higher targets up to the 74, 74.50 area. Maybe we can get a little bit lower, 73. But this being a third wave higher, it does make you can make an argument that if we did see a deeper pullback here, it wouldn't surprise us. All right. And if we do pull back, what we should look for first is for a retest of the prior high that is here, and that prior high would be 70, believe it was 73rd. Prior high 70. Let me try to get this right. 70.36. Let's just call that 70.43. Okay. So if we do see some weakness today, a retracement would not change the broader picture until we breached below, and we got back below the prior all-time high at 70.43, and with some strength and momentum. But there are several supports. We have trend line support just beneath that, as well as the prior high at 68.90 to 6900. Anything below that, then that would signal an hourly trend change, and that would tell us that maybe this high is going to hold, and these targets may be put on hold for later. We are seasonally bullish, though, as we finish off this last week, going into next month. And we have, seasonally speaking, we'll have to consider, the very popular sell in May and go away. All right, so let's get a little bit more granular. Let's look at the 15-minute chart and kind of map out what we could see today. All right, so every morning while we're mapping out our structure, the first thing we ask ourselves is, what is the condition of the overnight inventory, right? What happened overnight? And are there any clues that can give us a directional bias? So what is the state of the overnight inventory? To discern that, we look at what was the prior day settlement. So yesterday's closing print was 71.4350. That's where we settled at on the cash close. That's represented here by the settle. Okay. 71.43, we can easily see, just visually identifying that all the price action, pretty much, I would say 90% of that price action has been above the settlement. Each time we dipped below the settlement, either sellers were unable to gain a following or buyers were just there waiting, and likely a combination of the two, right? Okay, so each time we went below settlement, sellers were unable to gain a following, and we inched higher. Just recently, we just at about 7:30, we saw this big spike higher that tested above yesterday's high and immediately sold off. And that kind of makes sense, right? When we look at when we scroll out, we can see that each time price has gotten to these levels, we've just been unable to gain traction above it, which actually is going to make the trade, the next trade, if and when we do break out, it'll make the trade pretty simple, right? Because we've tested it now 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and each attempt has been met with the inability to gain a following. Okay, so next time we come up here, if we can show some acceptance above there, then it would give us a good area for a good risk marker for us to know if we're getting long, where we're wrong, right? All right, let's map out this morning. Let's get a little bit more granular and look at the 15-minute chart. Okay, so given that our overnight inventory is net long, what typically happens in this condition is off the open, we're going to see a counter move toward that overnight inventory. So typically there's a reset of the overnight inventory, where if it's more long than short, the first move is kind of a retracement of that move that kind of resets the books and cleans them out. Okay, so being that the overnight inventory is 100% long, we can reasonably expect if there is a move lower, it would make sense, and given the state of the overnight inventory. So say we're opening here at 71.65. The first thing we're going to cover is the most bullish argument. Okay, so say we open 71.65 and price comes up, test above. We have value area high, which is the highest value area from yesterday's high, as well as the overnight high. And all of those are within a 10-point range. So say price test above here and we get up here with strength and momentum, and buyers are able to hold above value area high, above yesterday's high, and above the overnight high, then we can look for pullbacks in which to get long with a reasonable risk marker just below those levels, anticipating that if we do fall back into yesterday's range, then the long argument, at least for that time, is not valid and it's not working. Okay, so say we do pull back and price hold, we chop around a bit, we show some acceptance, so we get a couple of bars closing up there, and price seems to stabilize, then we can start looking for long trades above and looking for higher targets. The other case would be if we trade up, if we go test above yesterday's high, overnight high, and then once again fail to gain a following, come back into yesterday's range, and on any retest, price is unable to breach back above, then we could look for short ideas with our risk marker being the overnight high and even yesterday's high, and look for a move right back down into the settlement. Say we're opening at 71.67 and immediately we see weakness off the open and price starts to trade lower, right? So then do we trade lower, test the settlement, right? And then price starts to stall out. Sellers are unable to gain a following. We look below that level, find support, reclaim it, put in a higher low, then we can start looking for long ideas with our risk marker being just below that local pivot low and we can look to get long with a target of the overnight high or even yesterday's high. All right, so say we open 71.67 and instead we see a strong momentous move lower. Okay, we see a lot of weakness and price cut, and the tell for that would be that, maybe we get a small bounce at the settlement, which is 71.43. Say we get a small bounce there, but unable to really gain anything above, anything more than 5 or 6 points, and the price is immediately coming back down to test it. And we all know that when the ES sells and it's really bearish, it's going to sell really fast. It's going to cut through levels like a hot knife through warm butter. It's just going to go. All right. And at that point, then we can look for that retracement. If we get below the settlement and below the overnight low, then we can look for short ideas that would take us back to yesterday's value area low and maybe even test into yesterday's thin part of yesterday's spike lower, our new spike. And maybe we even get a trade down to yesterday's low down here. All right, so I think that covers our most bullish scenario, a scenario where we look above yesterday's high, unable to get traction, and we've come back into range. We've also covered our bearish scenario where we slice through the settlement and we cannot find any buyers and price just cuts through the overnight low. Then we can look for short ideas that go back and test yesterday's low. We also covered what it would look like if we do test the settlement and we find support and start looking higher, form a higher low, and that'll give us an idea that we should start getting long, looking for long trades on pullbacks and potentially a move, to yesterday's high or even above. Then we have to cover the most dreaded outcome, which is the chop shop, right? And what would happen there is, say we open 71.67, we trade up a little bit, unable to gain a following, we come back into range, maybe we test down, unable to get a following, we come back, right? So in that event, what we want to do is use 71.43 to 71.81 as kind of our bookends, right? So then if we're staying in range, then then the trade becomes more scalpish, right? Scalp the edges and look for more mean reversion or price to retrace back to the mean. All right. So I think that covers the most bullish scenario, the most bearish scenario, the chop shop, as well as a few trap ideas if we look above yesterday's high, and if we look below the settlement on any opening weakness. But this still is a bull flag structure. One of the things that's standing out to me is just that we're starting to show signs of weakness, right? So while these dips are still being bought, obviously, we saw this a lot in like February and March, right? Where price would spike down and dips would be bought. However, there was no one really price was unable to find buyers above the highs. So yeah, buyers are showing up on dips, but they weren't willing to commit and press higher like we saw on the move off the 63.53 low, right? Because it was every day we make a high, and then shortly within a few hours or even the very next day, we would be testing that high, immediate breakout, pullbacks were being bought, shallow pullbacks were being absorbed, and price just continued to truck higher. We've now been up in this area for 7 days? So we made this initial the initial spike high, right? Let me just erase this stuff here, these scenarios, guys. If you want to take a screenshot, go for it. But this spike high here, that was on April 17th. So that was exactly 1 week ago. So that's 5 days of price not going anywhere. Now, we can't interpret that as being bearish, right? If we were bearish, then we'd be much lower. But what we're understanding is the context of the market that we're in, right? Dips are being bought, but failing to attract the following above recent highs. So in that event, what we want to do is we want to kind of frame our trades around buying those dips, buying supports, but we want to be exiting as we approach the upper parts of those of this broader range, and that being anywhere above 7150, 7160. You want to start making sure that you're scaling out by the time you reach those numbers. And also maybe leave a runner on for if in case we do break out and trail that runner as as your system dictates. But just be mindful that we're unable to gain a following above 7170, 7180. Each time we come up here, we're getting rejected. And in trading, you can't when you're unable to gain that traction above, you don't necessarily. I mean, personally, I don't necessarily want to be a seller up there unless I have a high probability setup or a specific price where I'm risking not much to get back into range. And I have one of those trades on right now, but I'm not expecting too much from it. I just want to see if it sticks. I want to see if we can test below, get down into the lower parts of the range. But so we can't interpret it that it's bearish until price breaks below the lower portion of the range. And the lower portion of the range is 7080 to 7100. Every time we get down there, prices find buyers are willing to step in and absorb any sellers. So and that's what we have until it's different. All right. So that kind of frames out the bullish argument, the bearish argument, the chop shop, and a little bit on context on what we can expect going into the day. All right. If you guys have any questions, do me a favor, drop a comment or post them in the chat, and I'll be able to get to those as soon as possible. All right, guys, we're gonna as soon as we get here on the open, we're gonna write down our opening print, and we're going to see what our relation is, what price relationship is to that daily open. Okay. Quick programming note. Hang on a second. Let me just get through this. Um, this request here. Excuse me. All right, 2 minutes to the opening bell here, guys. We're going to get started. We're going to see what our opening print is. Make sure that we have that jotted down. It's going to be important this morning that we know that we gauge the opening print and what what price does after the open, right? So let's give it about 15 minutes to see where we open and what the first move is, so that we can kind of gauge the intentions. We're just knocking on the highs here, right? With the overnight inventory long, it wouldn't surprise me if we come up, we look at the overnight high or yesterday's high one more time, and that test is going to be crucial. I think that test tells us whether we're going to gain a following and we're going to break out today, or whether we're just going to fall right back into the range of 7,100 to 7,150. But that's the marker. All right, guys. 1 minute to the opening bell. Oh, heads up. Quick programming note. Hey, so we have today. Believe we have Michigan sentiment at 10 a.m. Oh, that's right. Hang on. I'm just going to verify that. Bear with me. Give me a second. Yep. So we have consumer sentiment at 10 a.m. So heads up, right? So for me, guys, I don't really like. I'm in a short trade, but I do not want to execute anything until that report gets out of the way. It just you can get into a trade and then just easily get knocked out of it. So I'd rather just wait. And typically on news, price will set up after the news. All right, so we opened here at 71, 62.50, and we immediately trading lower, guys. Heads up. Immediately seeing a failed auction at the 71, 66.50 level. Stay on alert here. Seeing some weakness immediately off the open. All right. So on our time on our execution clock today, Text AD asks, "Where's today's time chart?" Yeah. So today we're expecting a low, an early morning low. I'll post that in the chat today. Here we go. Let me just make sure I have the right config here. Yep. All right, immediately trading lower, guys. Heads up. Heads up. We have some bearish price action here, guys. All right. Real quick, we have 1-to-1 negative on the NYSE, 3-to-1 positive on the NASDAQ. So the internals are divergent early on. Stay patient here, guys. Let's see where this goes. We're coming down into the settlement at 71.43. There is also support at 71.40 to 71.45. So let's see what happens if price gets there. But thus far, we opened and we only looked above the opening print by about 4 points, right? So certainly not a bullish open. Looks like we're getting that lower scenario we discussed during the morning prep. So stay on alert for that. Wait, no audio. All right, thanks. Wow, yeah. I think the folks on YouTube can hear me. Hey, drop a comment if you can hear me. The folks watching on YouTube, drop a comment, please. Or more importantly, hit that like button. All right, we came down 71.50. We know that this is kind of the center point of that range, right? Guys in the pit, check the media tray. All right, check your media tray. All right, so let me get I'm going to turn on the Spygate again today. We're going to share Spygate again with the folks watching. Typically that's part of an offering. Hang on. Okay, got that. Check. Yeah, so typically Spygate is our institution. Spygate is our institutional activity tracker, right? And we've been kind of letting the folks on YouTube watch that and see what that's all about. That is available to our members for free. It will not be broadcast. It cannot be broadcast for free forever, but just want to let you guys know. While you're watching, use it. Once again, I'll go over it. When you hear a knock or a croak like that, that means there's a sell program. You hear that knock, that means there's a buy program. Okay. We haven't seen much We haven't heard much, I should say, here. I just kind of use the audio version, but there is a chart version that will show you the specific amounts. Um, there are certain buy programs that will go off simultaneous with sell programs. They kind of like, will be, two institutions may be dueling it out. But it's when you hear those successive either knocks or croaks at a level, and you can see that they're kind of, being pretty consistent about it. That would signify that there's a larger program going off, and those are the ones we want to be on alert for. The smaller programs like the 100 million, these programs, all the multiples are listed in the Spygate chart. Typically, the 150, 200 million programs are not going to move the needle that much, but once you get up to like 300, 350, it changes things quite a bit. All right, so price came down. We tested, made a low of 71.50, 75, and now we're retracing here. Let's take a look at the sector list. Internals are still mixed. Big print on the Russell. The NASDAQ is kind of in the same state as the NQ. Keeping one eye on the SPX too. It's opening up gapped higher. So we want to be alert there for for a gap fill. I think that gap fill really lines up with a touch of the settlement. So that makes sense here. All right, we just heard small sell program going off. Okay, thanks, Adrian. Appreciate it. Oh, my hat. Dude, where the hell is the hat? All right, here we go. What do we got? Tested up to 71.60, hit that low volume notch, and now we're moving lower. There's one thing you can count on though, that bullish price action, bearish price action. It's going to be, we're going to see triggers, and it should happen fast. Like already, we moved lower. Yeah, we moved lower off the open, but you can already see we're petering out quite a bit. Let's just stay alert here. Remember, we have Michigan, University of Michigan consumer sentiment due out in 18 minutes. All right, getting a move now down low. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. You guys can't see my trades. Shit. All right. Dang it. Okay. Not sure why that screen share is not working. $15 to the University of Michigan consumer sentiment. Nope, that's not it. Dang it. Sorry, guys. Hang on. Hang tight. Things are just kind of choppy before that. I think that news release. And in my experience, guys, like, there we go. We got a small crow. Let me just see if I can get this screen share right. All right, cool. My experience, price is gonna, it's gonna move towards wherever it was going before. When the news drops, and then if there is like a counter move, it typically like will just complete that move after it settles down. Make sure I have the tick chart up here. Price is chopping around a little bit. Let me know if you guys have any questions. It's kind of a slow morning here, not much going on. And I'm just trying to get through now. Here, one eye on price, one eye on something else. Just until that, we got Michigan, like we said, we have consumer confidence out at 10. As you guys know, in the pit, we're expecting a low pivot. I don't know if that's a lower low, higher low, whatever the case might be, but we're expecting a low pivot, somewhere in between 10:15, 10:45, with a center time of 10:30. That settlement 71.43. One thing that I've noticed happens very frequently is, whenever price comes, drifts far away from settlement and comes back to it. I don't know for what reason, but it always like bounces like a point or something. There's always some type of a reaction there. Maybe it's not much, but there always is. And the rare times that it doesn't react, that's a big tell, when it just cuts right through settlement without even someone had shared a study with me some time ago that when price is, I think it was 10 points away from the settlement and it comes back into the settlement, it will bounce at least 1 point. It'll go +1 before it trades through it. So it'll go +1 before it goes -3, something like I don't remember it. But what we can garner from that is that write the settlement down. Today's settlement is 71.4350. News out in 7 minutes. Looking for 71.50 quarter on the first scale of this trade, guys. On the left-hand chart, the auto execution has me short 71.58 quarter in that account, and I'm looking for 71.50 quarter. And then, as we outlined earlier, if we look below settlement and then price peters out and starts to reclaim it, we can start looking for long ideas from there. All right. All right. So I got that target. Nice. All right, guys. Got the 50 quarter target for +7 points. Sweet. Always nice to start the day with a win. That's really nice. So that position worked out well. I have a micro short on at the same price. I have 6 micro short from there. And I also, without displaying too much, I have another short on from the highs. See if I can show that one. Let's see. Let me just do this. So I don't give up the goose. All right. Don't want to give up the goose. Wait, what is that? Bro. Oh, I see what it is. Okay. All right. Yep. So here's that.
Target filled.
Nice. I'm getting targets, guys. So I have a short on from 71.86. That's up 38 points. So I'm looking for lower prices on that. That's on the center screen. I also have, God, I'm so short right now. This is, again, the algo has me short. I don't like being this short, but the algo has me short there. And then I have the micro position on. So let me just make sure that I have those out. Shit, I'm not supposed to show that. God damn it. All right, so really heavily short. I want to start covering some of these up because, 4 minutes ahead of the news, right? It doesn't make much sense to be that heavily short. So I'm going to protect, obviously. So I have the big short on from 71.86. That was from this morning. I laid that out on the spike. I put that setup was posted in the Pitbull Traders chat at 7:15 this morning. I hope some of you guys caught some of it. I have that short on from the high. Also, so then I have the algorithm, the auto executed, the PTG ATA algorithm has me short 71.58. I have a 7-point scale out on that, and then we're looking for. Actually, we should be exiting this right here at 48. Yeah. Dude, 4 minutes out for the news. Yeah, it kind of makes sense. You can kind of peel that off here. All right, I'm going to take that. Oh, shit. God damn it. Yeah, perfect. Nice job, Manny. Stellar timing. Dude, what the seriously? Ugh. All right, whatever. How can I be that distracted? I just took it off. Screw it. Fuck it. It doesn't get me I don't care about, well, of course I care about the money, but execution is everything in this game. And if I'm not going to have my head in the effing game, what am I doing? How do I expect to win? So Stuart asked, how would we know we're short up there? I don't see it in the chat box. Here, Stuart, if you scroll up to my post at 7:46 a.m. Sorry, yeah, 7:46 a.m. Yep. 7:46 a.m. and it is setup number 4. Here, I'll repost it for you. $7:45 a.m. Dude, that pisses me off though, right? So distracted, and I had the 10-point lead. For some reason, that scale got moved. I'm not gonna say how, but I'm over here yapping, and I'm not taking care of business. That can't happen, Manny. Execution in this business is everything, right? We all know that. So no, you snooze, you lose. Second place exit. I gave up like what? It's not even giving up the points though that gets to me, right? It's just it's the not executing with precision. I'm better than that, and I know it. Whatever. Now I'm going to get stopped out of this micro trade. Screw it. Who cares? I deserve to get stopped out. Executing like some new rookie. Whatever. I'm going to put myself in the penalty box. Go into a Manny timeout. You know, because like, what if that was your trade for the day, right? And you're over here, you know, distracted and talking crap. Doesn't make any sense. Dude, get it together, bro. Get it together. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Doesn't keep the lights on. Oh, I could have covered there. Anyway, so whatever. I'm not going to dwell on it because if I do, I'm definitely not going to trade any better today. I got a target filled. Did you guys hear that? I don't even know where that target was. This is crazy. I didn't realize I was that short, guys. I don't want to be that short. I don't. It's just, you know, it's not smart being short in 3 different spots. You know, like I of course the 7186 short. So this one up here, right? So this one up here, I don't care about because you know I have a plan for that. I know where I'm exiting. I can't show the account number, but so this short, you know, I know what I'm doing with this. That's why my stop is right here, +1 tick. I'm willing to give it all up. And yeah, some people might say, oh, you know, why don't you drop your stop? Sure, I could do that. But that's not a part of the plan. And I want to execute my plan like a pro, right? So if I'm trading at a Goldman Sachs desk or a UBS desk, right? You think they're not going to accept some type of willy-nilly behavior. That's how you know, that's how I'm going to make better than average returns. Unbelievable. You know, so I've been trading, and we have a great community in Mr. Top Step. You should check it out, MrTopStep.com. We have a great community there, and I've been trading there for a while. And guys always give me a hard time, like, man, stop beating yourself up. Whatever. So the short from 7186. So my strat on that is I'm just not going to look at, like, I have it up on the screen, but I'm going to turn it off. I'm not going to look at it. I have the target is 7133. So that would be what, a 53-point gain if I get it. I had a 55 bagger yesterday on that drop. That trade was sweet. That trade, I had a good position on that one too, because I didn't scale too much up front, and then I also added some micros to it. So yeah, that trade made my week. That trade definitely made my week. Again, and that was a pre-planned setup. I gave that setup out in the morning. That setup that I took, that I was in, that netted 55 points. Now, mind you, right, I had to sit in that. So I shorted it before, you know, it was like, I think it was like mid-morning. Yeah, I'll go through it on the chart. Right, so look, we had the drop here. Right, so this was the big drop right here. But this was the level. The level was 71.84, I think. And then I shorted 71.75 and 71.77. But on this 15-minute chart, you know, I had a couple of scales out of it, but then I had to sit through this. and not touch it. And then all of a sudden the news came out and we dropped like a hammer. I was sitting in a meeting and I was completely distracted by it. Started fist pumping. This shit's exciting, man. When you nail a move like that, it's exciting. Let's see if it pays me another 50 today. But pretty much the same level. Pretty much the same level. You know, when I look back at the chart, right? When I was first starting out, I'd see a chart like this, right? Look on the left, see a move like this, and I was like, "Damn, I want to know how this guy knew to sell, this guy knew to buy, these people knew to buy. How did these people know to sell?" And that's always the ever quest to find out where are the right levels. And then after you have the right levels, see, I have a guy I'm coaching right now, and I'm constantly telling him, like, we're following a methodology to give him the right mindset to be a successful trader, right? And that's what I wish I would have learned first. If I could do it over again, guys, I would learn mindset first. I would learn execution tactics. I would learn how to execute a system flawlessly before I would learn technical analysis. And so, because I think that's more important. You know, if you know how to execute really, really well, then you apply technical analysis, then you apply whatever strategy. Here's the thing, right? You can give two guys the same strategy and one will make money and the other one will lose. So what's the difference? Well, it's in how they execute. And even deeper into that is their mindset. Mindset is everything. Guys, have any questions? You know, like I, as you guys can see, I'm kind of new at this, so help me out here. If you have any questions, any feedback, more than welcome to hear it. Put it out. All right. Oh shit. Excuse me. So the Michigan news sentiment dropped, right? Why didn't I hear it? All right. So Stuart asks, I'm just curious. I wasn't in the room at the time, but did you verbalize the short, or do we impute it from the written plan? So yeah. So Stuart, I wasn't. I was. So you have to follow the plan. So the plan is posted with the level, the reason for the trade. So you have the level, the trigger, the risk. So what the level is, what you want to see to get into the trade once you're at the level, how much you should risk on the trade, and then there's a level description that tells you what the level is. And from there, you should have pretty much everything you need to execute. Yeah, no worries, Stuart. You know, any questions are welcome. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. What the hell is this? What the fuck? I don't understand what happened here. Oh, I see what happened. Dang, that's unfortunate. All right, no worries. Magister says sports and martial arts in particular are good at teaching that emotional control. Yeah, I agree with you, Magister. I used to I used to train jujitsu. Oh, I think it was 3 or 4 years. But I also boxed for like 6 years. Um, I liked boxing more because I just it was I jujitsu was fun, but I didn't like to roll around with other guys. Like when you get really sweaty and you start touching each other, it didn't grow on me. But I stuck with it for a little while. I enjoyed boxing a little bit more. Those are all good disciplines. Then Reverie says, "Yeah, match. You can beat the shit out of your emotions and see things clearly again." Yeah, that works. All right, cool, cool, cool. Magister says that's why I always recommend Bruce Lee's The Tao of Jeet Kune Do for traders to read. It's as good a book for trading as it is for martial arts. Yeah, there are some interesting reads out there that can help you with trading, um, for sure. Uh, when you're grappling with emotions and the little me in your head, you start to identify patterns. Hang on a second. So one of my Book of the Five Rings is a similar book. Shaolin Focus says, um, you know what? Which one stuck with me? Um, it helped out a lot. Was uh, the book that helped me quite a bit was, well, I wouldn't say with one. It was several, but it was gosh, I'm even a little hesitant to mention it. It's not for everyone. Maybe I'll just stay away from that. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there. Yeah, thanks for recommending those books. I'm a loves to read. She devours books. Um, she just case in point, she read like all nine Harry Potter books. Um, but yeah, gosh, which was the book that was just recommended to me that was really good? I tore it up in like a day. Not a day. I think it was. Hang on, what was it? Um, it was really good, and it was Mark. Well, let me focus. It looks like the crossover got me long here. So I got long. It got me long at 71.58, 75. Not in love with the trade, but I'm gonna let the algorithm just execute it. If you can, it's Friday. Typically, so on the left hand chart, guys, the algo has me long. Right, I'm gonna let that play out. So typically, I'd be trading this with 3 or 4 contracts. It's Friday. I've had a great week. I'm running it reduced size. So I'm trading one. I'm taking off at the first target. Typically, I would have you can see it has 4 targets laid out. That's the way I would typically run it. But since it's Friday and I'm having reduced risk Friday for me. So hey, so really quick, back to the book that I was mentioning that I thought it was just a fun read. It's not so much about trading, but about markets and stuff. It's called Hedge Hogging. You should check it out by Barton Biggs. Hedgehogging. It's an easy read too. Simple read. It's not like that dense, and it's fun read. All right, coming up into that upper target here. Let me just make sure that that's the only trade I have on. Yep. It's the only trade I have on there. Hey, for the folks watching on YouTube, please do me a favor. Hit that like button, smash the subscribe button if you like what we're doing out here. As I said, we have a ton of new speakers coming on next week. We're adding value every week. Check us out. And if you want to be notified on when we do our special live streams and our workshops, I'm doing a workshop really soon on the clock, on the execution clock. I think you're going to want to be a part of that, right? The execution clock is a tool that's very unique in that it tells you what time to trade. So it gives you an idea for when to execute a trade. So look out for that. The market tends to chop. Have you ever seen like the market stay in balance? It chops around, then all of a sudden breaks out of nowhere. Well, there's a pattern to that. All right, it looks like I'm gonna get. I wasn't in love with this trade either, man. We came to with very close, and it just didn't quite lay it out. It didn't quite hit the target, but in the pre-market prep, we've mentioned that we could come down to settlement 70. We ID'd that there was support between 71.40 and 71.45, and you can see that thus far all we've done is chop sideways and sideways to slightly higher. Thus, I was willing to allow the algorithm to finish this trade, but on a reduced scale. Okay. It's just part of my own personal money management. Magic. Okay. Yeah, I don't get that last one about priests, but I'm not touching that. I don't want God or Jesus to push me to the back of the line. So yeah, not touching that one. I might be on the lines of the pearly gates, and he's like, "Yeah, I remember that comment you said on the stream that day about Magister's post. You just take a few steps back. Go." Yeah. Start reaching a certain age, man. You start looking at shit differently. Yeah, Reverie says praying is usually a pretty good indicator to get flat. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, you might want to cut that, bud. And then pray. This thing's got no traction. No traction here. Ahem. The discipline in trading, right? One of the biggest disciplines in trading is not doing anything. I think that's the hardest thing. Yeah, Adrian. So look out for that. That workshop is coming out pretty soon. So just as an example here, I'll put it up on the screen, Adrian, so you can see it. You got some folks watching on YouTube that are not privy to the. So every day before the open, I put out the execution clock, and the execution clock tells us where not where, it has nothing to do with price. It's all time, right? So it's going to tell us within which windows we can expect either a high pivot or a low pivot. And I was mentioning to our private community yesterday how even, I've been using it for over 10 years and I'm still blown away at the accuracy of it. So here, let me show you pretty much. I think I have a couple of screenshots. Let me see which one I can find. I've been collecting some screenshots to use as part of the tutorial. So let's see. $10.25. So this was yesterday's. I'm not sure if you can see it, but I'll blow it up. You can get a good idea. So we knew early in the day that we were looking for a high in between 10:15 and 10:45, a low between 11 and 12:15, and then a high between 2 and 2:55. The yellow boxes are the time windows marked by where there was a high or low pivot, and that's the window there. So let's take a quick snapshot of that. Okay. All right. Looks like I got stopped out of that trade. Fine. All right, guys. 10:30 now. Today's program is brought to you by. No, I'm just kidding. Let me get this up. All right, take care, Reverie. Yep, I'm cutting it short today. Also, guys, I'm not gonna. I'm going to. I have a meeting at 11 a.m. that I have to get ready for, so I'll only be on for about another 10 or 15 minutes, and then I'll jump back on later on this afternoon if time permits. Okay. This is like pretty choppy here, guys. I still think we'll get an official tag of that settlement, but let's see. Yeah, for sure, we're gonna tag that settlement at some point today. See if I can get an entry. See if I can get an entry here. Oh, got me short again. Short again, 71. Short again, 71.52.75. Looking for the first scale at 71.49.75. It has the first scale at plus 3 points. Not sure why, but I'm just going to stick with it. It's a tight trade. Scalp trade. Target. All right, boom. Got the first target on that, guy. So nice. Kind of makes up for that earlier stop out. Looking for a tag of that settlement down there at 71.43. Thus far, our low is 71.45. I think at a certain point that gets breached. Yeah, Adrian, look out for that. It's coming. It's definitely coming. So that clock tutorial is coming soon. I pretty much have every day type now, and now I'm just kind of organizing everything and getting it together and preparing it. So look out for that. It's going to be really cool because we're going to go over the execution clock. We're going to, and then I'm going to add some components to it, right? So I want to show you guys how do you use that in combination with the cycle days, the Taylor 3-day cycle. I think coming into every day, you know, as day traders, right? It's easy to not know what kind of day you're in, right? Like why is one day a 20-point range where another day is an 80-point range, right? Why do some days trade inside versus expanded range? And is there a way to have an idea for what kind of day you're facing before the day opens? And there is. We have tools for that. And that's what I'm going to be sharing. Both the Taylor 3-day cycle in combination with the execution clock, as well as, you know, the market blueprint setups that I give out. All of that is kind of like this bundle of what I personally use and I've used for a long time to give you an idea for what you're facing each day. All right. So it looks like I'm going to get stopped out on the return of that. So what happens? Scalp didn't work. Got one target. It's kind of the way the day's going, but you know, I can't say that I'm surprised because I'm trading. You know, it has me. It keeps executing me in the middle of this range. And after this trade, if this trade stops out, I'm going to turn it off. I don't want to keep executing, and I don't want to keep executing in the middle of this range on a Friday on a profitable week. All right, so yep, I'm out there. Stu. So the Stu asked, so Manny, I'm my reading graph for the day as having a low this morning at 11:40. The low for today is here. The next pivot is 10 to 10:45 with a center time of 10:30. So that is upon us right now. Then the following pivot would be 11:40 to 12:50. I post that it's every day is different, and you have to know which day type configuration you're in, and that's why I post it each morning. All right, so on the CCI one on the left, I think I'm at negative $232, and then the other one is negative $300, and then the other one is positive $562. So I'm like scratch for the day. I'm trading really small, except for the big short from 71.86 that I'm holding. What I'm going to do on that short though is, all right, I'm going to drop it. I'm going to drop the stop soon here to 71.76. I want to lock in 10 points. I think that kind of makes sense here. But 1037. Yeah, good. It's smart, Jeff. It's chop shop. It's very choppy. We're right in the center of the range. University of Michigan sentiment news came out, and we've gone nowhere. Right. We're trading back and forth in a 21-point range and then remember the context, the higher time frame context that we reviewed this morning. Right. We're in this massive bull flag right up here. Right. And we're trading towards the top of that range. So the top of the range is 71.50. The bottom of the range is 7,100. I mean, I don't want to, do I want to be long or short up here? Right. I certainly, I mean, I could be wrong. Okay. Here, look, it's lasting off. But I don't want to be sure. I don't want to be, I don't want to over trade this. I mean, this left-hand chart, this 4-hour chart tells you everything, right? That's why I'm trading one lots. I'm not looking to attack this today. I did well yesterday. I'm thinking about cashing that paycheck. I don't want to give it back on a choppy Friday because I wanted to trade. Now, this is not a good environment for making money. I mean, if you want to trade and that, that's your thing, then I'm sure that you can scalp this or something that's probably exciting or something of that nature. But I have a short laid out from the top of the range, and I have supports down lower that I'm willing to buy. And that's about it. I know I don't want to attack this. I'm going to stick to, I might even, to be honest with you, I might pivot now to trade micros after this. Or to be honest, I have a meeting at 11 o'clock, and I mean, I don't even know if I'm going to, I know I'm coming back. Because I'm not really going anywhere. But what I'm saying is I'm not going to attack the market today. I would have loved it if we would have been breaking out, but look, we outlined this morning, and look, I'm not going to sit here and act like it's easy, right? Like like I just said, the discipline in trading is in not doing anything. It's hard. I get it. You know, you want to execute. You want to make money. You want to know that you want the validation of being able to execute a thesis. However, a part of that is listening to the market, and when it's telling you something like, hey, maybe this is not the best day to be throwing 5 lots around, maybe we should listen. That's all. Dude, I'm gonna stop too. I sounded so preachy, so lectury. All right, so you can see, guys, here we got the pivot off the AM low. That window's coming close. That window's closing very soon here. Now we'll look for a high pivot. So you guys start to see how the clock works, right? You know, so think about it, right? You can have, how many times don't you have the right level, but you lose money on it because you were early or late? So imagine having a tool that tells you, hey, if you wait 20 minutes, your probability of success at that level is a lot higher. I mean, there's nothing else like it, guys. Nothing else like it. The people the few traders that I know that use it are swear by it, and they would not ever trade, even think of trading without it, just like I will. Frame my trades all around it. My whole trade plan is framed around it. Stuart, it's posted in the chat. If you scroll up, I posted an image of it at, let's see, I posted the image at 9:31. See if that trend line holds. I don't think so. Yep, you're welcome. So let's see if the thesis holds true, right? So we outlined this morning, right, that we knew we had support 7140. I was waiting for a test of the settlement, and I still think that that's possible today. But the AM low came in early. We pivoted. Now let's see if we can gain traction, above here and then above here. That's why I'm moving my stop to right above there, because if it comes up there, then I know that trend is going to move higher. But I'm not confident in it. Again, I'm willing to accept that I get stopped out for whatever the 10 points, and that the best trade I had of the day turned into a small win. And one thing that helps with that is not looking at it. All right, we're back through the open and back above the first 5-minute high. All right, guys. So I have to jump real quick. I have a meeting to prep for. I'll be back in about an hour, guys. Hang in there, everybody. Thanks for watching on YouTube. If hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and come back and check us out on Monday. Again, we're going to be talking about the clock. We're going to be talking about the market blueprint execution. We're going to be talking about Spygate. We're going to there goes Spygate there. So there's some institutional selling going on at this level. Come back, check us out every weekday, Monday through Friday, 9 to 11. Thanks for watching, guys.